Let's move on to company news out on the day, because NET1 coming through and slipping to a third quarter headline loss per share of 0.1 US cents. Revenue still increasing 32% on a constant currency basis to $111 million. Now, the company expects fundamental earnings in the fourth quarter to be at least 0.2 cents. So here to help us dissect the numbers, I've got Serge Belamant, Chairman and CEO at NET1, and I'm just going to come through to sit with you. Serge, thanks very much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure, thank you.
So certainly it has been a tough time when it comes to spending a lot of time, I'm sure, from a management perspective in the courts, and falling into a loss-making position. Let's just quickly talk about Allpay. Just talk us through where this issue is right now, because at this point in time you're looking to now sue them for damages when it comes to the reputation of NET1.
Yes, correct. You probably know we're not going to go through the whole history because it would take quite a long time. But really, Allpay, as you know, was one of the bidders, and obviously they did not win the bid because we won the bid. So they decided to go to court in order to challenge the bid from all sorts of different angles. Thus far, we know that really the important court of the land, which is really the appeals court, have ruled in the favor of both SASA and ourselves. In other words, as far as the bench of 5 judges are concerned, which are fairly senior people, they believe there was nothing wrong with the SASA tender, that in fact the tender was awarded correctly to us, and that at the end of the day, we believe that this is the way it's going to stay. Allpay have now gone to the Constitutional Court, which of course is their right.
This will be the first commercial case to be heard by the Constitutional Court if it does get through.
I think you are right, and by definition, it makes very little sense because it's not a constitutional matter by definition. If it was just purely a question of 2 people arguing about money, that's not what the Constitutional Court is about. So I'm not an attorney, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not an advocate. I'm a technologist. So we will see what obviously the judges at the Constitutional Court are going to say. Are they going to then allow Allpay to come forward and to do it, or to present their case, or are they simply to look at the evidence that's beyond them and make a ruling?
But at this point in time, you've appealed that together with SASA, which is the South African Social Security Agency.
Of course, of course. I don't think it was, candidly, my lawyers tells me we have to appeal. I don't think it's necessary to have appealed it. At the end of the day, the Constitutional Court, I think, are important enough and big enough to decide themselves if that should be heard without looking at our filings.
In the meantime, you're rolling out your program with SASA in South Africa. Where does it stand right now? Are you earning already from this? I mean, what type of contribution comes through from this?
Well, we as you know, we're very excited about what we've managed to do, because in 10 months, we've enrolled 20 million South Africans, which is quite a task, as you can imagine. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you see 20 million people in a row, it's a huge amount of people to enroll. And that has gone down incredibly smoothly. But also remember that not only enrolling them, we've had to pay 9.2 million every single month as well, an amount of 9 billion rand. So I think between ourselves and SASA, we've done, I think, in my view, a fantastic job of actually filling in all of the gaps that, in fact, SASA were trying to fulfill with the award of this particular tender.
So 20 million South Africans so far is what you've got in the social welfare payment system.
Correct.
Essentially. How big a part of NET1 will that be when it comes to earnings contribution, and how important will it be further down the line?
I think for us, we've always looked at it. Remember, we're not only a South African-based company. We also have business in Africa, and we've got business in places like Mexico and South America. So for us, we are hoping that our SASA contract, or at least South African business, will still bring us around the 60 to 65% of our top line. How much of the profit might be fundamentally less, simply because the margins are not great. It's still a huge amount, but again, it's a massive contract. So we're obviously not shying away from getting the big contract, simply because it might look like if there's a risk, because there's contract concentration. Our first target is still South Africa.
Is that something shareholders are concerned about?
Well, shareholders anywhere in the world always obviously get concerned if you're saying to them 50-60% of your profit or top line is coming from one particular customer. But of course, SASA is government. So what risk is that? It's a sovereign risk. We can't believe for 1 second that this is probably the best type of risk to have.
Well, let's go into the other parts of the business, because we know NET1, as you say, you've got exposure not just in South Africa. So tell us about, the business right now and the kind of growth areas that you see them for NET1 going forward. You also listed on the NASDAQ.
Of course. Well, we primarily listed on the NASDAQ, and we got an inward listing on the JSE, which is very different to most other South African companies. So our biggest sort of future energies are going to be spent in fulfilling or adding to our payment system. What we've done here, which includes both what we call a payment system, which can be utilized in a completely offline environment, where people are protected through biometric technology, namely fingerprints or voice. And we've managed to integrate that with the so-called first world country solutions, which between you and me are far beyond us in many, many aspects, but they look at themselves as first world. We've managed to integrate the two, whereby it's completely interoperable and completely transparent to the customer. So you yourself could have your card from Nedbank, for example. You'll be able to go to a terminal and put in your PIN number, with a chip on the card. But you could go to one of our payment stations and use your fingers in order to verify yourself, which makes it very, very friendly for the millions of people in South Africa that are
Can
very much
developing
illiterate.
countries like ourselves afford this technology?
Absolutely, because it is many, many times cheaper than, in fact, the first world country solutions. We're talking factors of 10. So there is no doubt that any country in Africa, and by the way, we are in places like Botswana, Malawi, Ghana, as far up as Iraq, Mozambique, all of those countries want this technology because it can afford them, it can allow them to bank the majority of citizens, rather than simply the few that have everything. Okay? So that's the concept behind what we are doing as a company. And obviously, we have new products that are now going to move into mobile, which, as you know, is something that's taking over everywhere. So we've got to keep mobile at the back of our mind, but mobile the African way.
Yeah.
Not everybody is going to have an iPhone. Not everybody is going to have the latest PC. Not everybody is going to be able to afford the latest software. So we tend to try to build our solutions based on infrastructure that is available in that country. Not telling them, well, get yourself 4G, and after you've got 4G, then you'll be able to do something. It's nonsensical.